Hello, good people, and welcome to another whiskey review with me, the Whiskey Novice. Thank you for joining me, and you are joining me as I break my Daftmill ownership duck. Yes, this is the first bottle of Daftmill that I've ever owned, and here's me reviewing it. So let's just give you a quick overview of Daftmill. Established in 2005, a lowland distillery, a farm distillery established by Francis and Ian Cuthbert. Cuthbert, yeah, it doesn't matter what it is. Cuthbert, there you go. And so this one's the 2011 winter batch release. Limited to 7,500 bottles. 2011, bottled to 2024, so technically a 13-year-old. Bottled at 47%, non-chill filtered natural colour. So a farm distillery. Small production, very small production, sometimes as little as 100 barrels per year. That's what it says on the bottle. Let's get into it, shall we? Light, sweet, citrusy. Lemon cheesecake there is. An underlying biscuity note. Also apple, green apple. Candied fruit. The longer you spend with this whiskey, the better it gets. And at 46%, there's nothing in there to really beat you about. It's you know, easy going. Oatmeal, yes. Some light honey and golden syrup. But not much else to report. Let's get into the palate. Good, thick, chewy, sweet and sour delivery. Yeah. An awful lot of what I was mentioning there in the nose carries through. The biscuity notes, the oatmeal, the cheesecake, definitely. It has that really lemony, creamy, almost slightly lactic-y note. And it's thick. The apple, I would suggest, gets a little lost in translation. It sort of disappears. Golden syrup, I think I mentioned maybe earlier on, yes. Yeah, good finish. Good, bright, long. Citrusy once again. The cheesecake note, a nice white peppery note, is just there and no more. It's, you know, yeah. Let's add a drop of water, shall we? So it's had a bit of water. It's had a bit of time. Let's try again. Yeah, the water affirms the lemon cheesecake that I was thinking of. It's definitely got that wee light biscuity note and that creamy lemon citrus. Pleasant nose. And this, yeah, oh, very much that citrusy, brighter citrusy note carries through into the palate. The water definitely lightens off that palate, and just it just flows and clean, fresh into a nice, clean, fresh finish. Yeah. Anybody who wishes to skip forward, this is the opportunity, right? This is your time to do so. I may be a moment here. I'm going to try and get through it as quick as possible. I have a bit of a rant about this. So, pricing, what we like to pay for whiskey, yet again, it's a bit like taste. It's a bit like what we enjoy. We're all different. What is expensive to me isn't necessarily expensive to you. What's cheap to me isn't necessarily cheap to you. That's something that we find out for ourselves as we go along. Well, I've been at this a while now. You've been at this a while now. Most of you, I would suggest. So we know how much is comfortable for us to pay at a capped level. We know what we consider cheap on the lower level. This was £105. That's relatively inexpensive for a Daftmill. Daftmills are usually encroaching on the £200 a bottle mark. Yes, it's a small concern. Yes, they're sort of doing this as a sideline, I would suggest, to farming. So, they're trying to bring in a bit of money with it as well. Okay, fair play to you, Cuthberts. Here's my issue. This, I would describe, if this was any other whiskey, as inoffensive and approachable. If this was £50 a bottle, it would be inoffensive and approachable. If this was probably £25 a bottle, I would still consider it inoffensive and approachable. But it was £105. I want my wow factor. That's £100 is about my cap where I feel comfortable. Above £100, I want my wow factor. I want something in there that is making me go, yeah, I get it. I expected something here because whiskey enthusiasts throughout bang on about Daftmill and how good it is. I'm sure I'm bound to have had Daftmill in the past, but I never owned a bottle before this. Where's my wow factor? That's what I want to know. If I'm going to pay above my cap where I'm comfortable, I want my wow factor, and I'm not getting it here. All I'm getting here is inoffensive and approachable. I'm sure I want 100%, I'm sure that I am open to change. We all are. By the time I get to hearing this bottle, if I take 6 months or a year over this, I may go back to this bottle, down here and go, wow, I get it. And I hope I do. But I'm not so sure I will. Because, and why that? Well, A, I'm convinced that the whiskey changes the bottle. But B, I'm convinced that we change. Our palates change over time. And I have went back to bottles in the past where I've suggested that I didn't like it, or I did like it. And then I've come back and went, oh, I do like it, or I don't like it, and we do change. We flip-flop. But it's not, the bottle has had a go already, and I've yet to find anything other than inoffensive and approachable. I want a wow. I want something that says to me, yeah, you can understand why people are going on about me. Will this put me off Daftmill? No, because at the end of the day, where Daftmill encroaches on that £200 a bottle mark, I wasn't going to buy it anyway. Not generally. So, it doesn't matter to me. Daftmill don't necessarily matter to me. They don't really fall into my bubble of whiskies that I'm comfortable paying for. But it just left me a little disappointed. It's that simple. It's just left me a little disappointed. So I think you get the point, and I'm going to leave it there. Actually, I'm not. I'm going to add one more thing to that and say, this has happened in the past where there's been a whiskey that people have raved about, and I've reviewed it and said, I don't get it. And I've had comments then from people saying, you're only saying that to try and get viewers. You're saying you don't like that whiskey that everybody else here likes, just so people will go, oh, you and your complaints. That's bullshit in the highest degree, because anybody who knows me knows that you will get an honest opinion from me. This is only my honest opinion on this, and I want something more from this, and I'm not getting it. Yeah. So, given that rant, what would I suggest as an alternative? Well, this was another bottle that I remember at the time of reviewing other people glowed about, and I wasn't necessarily just as glowing about, but when I look back, and it was the first one that I thought of. There are a few that would have fallen into the realms of the Daftmill, but it was the first one that I thought of, and sure enough, when I went back to it, I went, yeah, and it's the Balblair 12-year-old. Quite a bit cheaper. I think whenever I was reviewing the Balblair 12, it was sort of between the £40 and £45 a bottle mark. It's crept above that now. However, it's equally as good, if not better, than this Daftmill for less than half the price. I just, so where's the justification in the Daftmill then? I'm not going to bang on about this. I'm not going to carry on and just belittle Daftmill, because that's, as I say, they're somebody else's. But I just wanted my wow factor. And when I think about the Daftmill now, or not the Daftmill, the Balblair, and I've been back over that Balblair, and I've revisited since my review of it. And that's another good example of me going back and going, actually, this is very good for what you pay for it. It's what you get for your money. And it's a good example of getting a lot of whiskey for the money. Not so much in Daftmill's case, I'm afraid. Once again, as I said, it won't put me off Daftmill. Daftmill don't care about me, and it doesn't really matter, because Daftmill were never one of those places that I was buying a lot of their whiskey anyway, because it's outside of my remit technically. So, this is, I suppose, neither here nor there. But anyway, let's just put it to bed. Balblair away, Daftmill, thank you very much for joining me. Thank you very much to my patrons. Should anybody wish to join that group, the details are in the video description below. I'll be back the next time, and I hope you still come back. Until then, look after yourselves. Here's to your good health. Cheers.
Hey, thanks for watching my video. Please click and subscribe to be notified of further content.